into the online broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after-shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hello and welcome to an all-new UFC on AfterBuzz TV 2015 edition.
We're back!
We're back!
You're in my shot.
We're back!
We're back!
We're back! Okay,
Miss us?
the year started off with a bang. Jon Jones versus Daniel Cormier, a really highly anticipated championship light heavyweight title fight that, in my opinion, delivered. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I completely agree. It was the one thing that salvaged a show that, let's just say, is not going to go on best of 2015 ranks lists by any means.
Like we said at the end of 2014, we're in a really weird standing. We still have some injuries lingering from the previous year. So Jon Jones and Daniel Cormier definitely started the year off right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that whole event was so. I'm George, by the way, George Hermoza. That whole J-Tan, Daria.
We've been here
Daria
enough.
Berenato. So it's kind of like you can have a weak undercard on the pay-per-view, even though I was really anticipated for Donald Cerrone and Maljury as well. But yeah, that whole event, everything, every promotion, every commercial, it was just about that one fight.
Because there was so much subject matter for that one. Like, that's a chunky fight if there is one for these guys to sell. And
yeah, it was supposed to happen earlier in the year, earlier in 2014, and, you know, it got rescheduled and postponed, and the animosity built and built and built from there.
Yeah,
so,
the heat was hot by that point already anyway.
Are you okay?
Sorry, audio guys in iTunes land. We're getting visual direction here from our super producer monkey.
We're in a little
Steven.
bit of a revamped studio. I don't know if you guys can tell, but it's beautiful.
Go for the wide shot there. Yeah, we got a new table here.
Yeah.
There's no room for my computer. I'm lost.
I can strobe the floor, guys.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Dance party! Woo, woo, woo.
I was afraid we were getting teleported. Jeez.
Isn't that really
Hey,
cool?
warn us about that next time, Dad.
I could have had epilepsy.
All right, and back to UFC.
Anyway.
So last night, they were from the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yes, they were.
January 3rd, 2015, the first UFC show of the year. They typically have one show either at the end of the year or the first of the year.
Right around, the New Year's Eve. It's the U.S. version of Pride's New Year's Eve show.
So essentially, this is at their end of the show, you know, Big Bang New Year's show.
Yep.
I always feel like it's always this, and then the July 4th show, or that weekend, where it's always the big
The July 4th show always delivers. I remember last year was the Ronda Rousey.
on July, you know, that week. But again, and it's always the end of the year too. So this is now their WrestleMania / SummerSlam, if you want to compare it to, you know, take it to pro wrestling
There we
references.
go.
You know,
How
I
long
knew it
did
was
that
going
take?
there.
That was 3 minutes, 28 seconds there. Yeah, by this point, obviously, the UFC, for certain dates that they want to hit and make annual events.
Right.
Bigger shows like the New Year's, for lack of a better phrase, the New Year's Eve show. This whole thing started out, guys. Pride Fighting Championships in Japan used to do a really big event. Actually, there were several big events in Japan New Year's Eve. There was a huge fight show going on, usually at the Tokyo Dome, which I believe previously was the Tokyo Egg Dome, but there were several different promotions. Pro wrestling and MMA oftentimes would come together, and you'd see the biggest guys, biggest stars of that country. MMA, sometimes fighters might do pro wrestling, et cetera, et cetera.
Speaking of which, one of the greatest, maybe even the greatest Japanese MMA fighter of all time, Sakuraba, fought on the wrestling card last night under a big Japanese crowd.
On
that was
something
a big deal.
completely different, having nothing to do with the UFC.
I was trying to keep it, you know, Sakuraba. That's why I said he's the best Japanese MMA fighter.
You tied it in well, George.
Yeah.
Good job.
The Gracie Hunter.
The point being, though, the UFC, the end of the year / beginning of the year is one of those big marks for the UFC. Also, like George said, July 4th, Memorial Day, I believe, typically is a big one, and also, of course, Super Bowl. I think the Super Bowl was actually one of the first big annual events. They used to call it Super Saturday, and it was the day before the Super Bowl when they would plug a huge, they'd get a huge main event and then load the card up.
It's typically a title fight. Very rarely, if not maybe not even ever, will they have a non-title fight as the main event.
I think in recent years of the sport, though, we've seen so much in 2014 to be specific, where we're anticipating this huge card, like a Jon Jones, Daniel Cormier, and then yeah, it's big. We see our stars, but they don't necessarily deliver as we thought they would. And then we also see, shows that I'm going to explain, with amazing performances. So it's not only the hype behind the show that sells the show. I mean, yeah, of course that does the original ticket sales, but then we go back and watch them every weekend and we see amazing performances from guys of all caliber. So even though we might not think it's the biggest show or, the best names on the card, we still get some good content. So like this one had a lot of hype behind it and, it didn't exactly deliver how we wanted it to, but that doesn't mean that...
From an entertainment standpoint,
Right, from entertainment value, of course.
I think it's important to differentiate, though, the event itself from the big draw, which was Jones Cormier, which I think really did deliver in terms of entertainment.
Right, exactly.
It was a good competitive match. Jon Jones did win by unanimous decision, 49-46. Was it 49-46 across the board, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the other matches, though, there were some great names on the undercard. Donald Cerrone and Miles Jury, which a lot of people really anticipated.
Well, they were on the main card, yeah.
The George Hermoza winner of UFC Fighter of the Year.
That was, and he is proving you right. I didn't think that was a good matchup to begin with. I mean, Miles Jury is a young guy that's on his up and coming, and I understand giving him title contention and giving him kind of top 10, but to feed him to Donald Cerrone, and when I say feed him, that's exactly what that means. I think it was kind of rough, kind of early. I don't know.
He just came off beating Diego Sanchez and Takanori Gomi, who I know Jay knows. Gomi is one of the greatest lightweights of all time.
They are legitimate. I don't know. I just saw it being a bad matchup, and I don't know. Donald Cerrone is one of those guys that breaks you in the cage, and it was a tough fight.
Miles did not bring it like he brought to Gomi or to Diego Sanchez there. And who knows? I haven't seen any interviews or spoken with anybody from his camp, since then to know whether it went wrong or not. There was another match, Hector Lombard and Josh Burkman was... Well, here's the story of the show, which will tie together. A lot of these matches seem like very one-way matches. Sorry, I left my vocabulary in 2014. We had they were all unanimous decisions, but 3 matches out of, I believe, 10 matches total, 7 unanimous decisions. That's hard for a crowd to sit through, much less a TV audience whose patience is going to be that much less.
Right.
All of those unanimous decisions, of those, were 30-27s. I'd say arguably Jones Cormier was probably the closest one in terms of competitive skill level between the two. Nothing at all came close to a split decision. And Jones Cormier was super competitive on both guys here who won that match.
It was pretty lopsided. Yeah. I could have seen rounds 2 and 3 being close, but besides that, rounds 1, 4, and 5 were definitely all Jones. We'll get to that later. But
let's just start from the bottom.
Yeah, let's start from the bottom and go over the results. We had number 6, Hector Lombard versus Josh Burkman, who is returning. He stayed active in other organizations, but
he had some success outside the UFC, submitting John Fitch, who is one of the most unbreakable guys up until then. I remember he made John Fitch pass out, if anything, with a chokehold.
Hector Lombard defeated Josh Burkman via. I like watching Hector, obviously, because I trained with him in the past, but he's just one of those fighters that always brings it. He's really, really tough as nails. As we saw, his kicks hurt. the back of Josh Burkman's thigh was veined and bloody and bruised. It was horrible.
It looks like there was a steak ready to go on the grill.
Yeah, exactly.
Tenderized, ready.
That was the greatest way to put it. Also, they said Josh Burkman wasn't feeling well at the beginning of this week. He was very sick, so I don't know if that had anything to do with it. It kind of looked like he wasn't in there.
I mean, with that said, that guy's a tough dude. He took a lot of shots from Hector Lombard. It was kind of weird because there were a lot of times where he just kind of kept dropping his hands and just kind of kept walking away. It was like, I know they were both tired. So, I mean,
to me,
it was
now I'm looking at it as, as say a judge. It looked to me as if Josh Burkman was mentally giving up. Not completely, not throwing in the towel, not this fight, but like, dude, you're beating my ass. I'm going to do what I can do. I don't know. It just seemed like he kind of...
Joe Rogan tried to save face for him. He was like, he's just kind of looking for the counter, which he did. It looked like it was working for a little bit, but just too much. Lombard was just too much, too strong.
Yeah.
It's funny because I expected Lombard to come out at 85, just blitz through a guy,
right?
And I expected, honestly, the match to be done in the first round.
Yeah.
Lombard did not, he was pretty fast and had heavy hands. Both guys, I thought, for as weird as the match was, and Burkman's poise, and there were a lot of moments there where Burkman swung for the fences. Both guys traded heavy leather.
It was like a desperate swinging, though.
Yeah, it was
always on the back end.
That's the stuff that makes great barn burner matches.
Absolutely,
where the fans go crazy and you just see four fists going at each other. And there were a lot of moments where that started to happen and then it didn't happen.
Right.
Lombard was more like a Terminator, just constantly chasing down Burkman. And I expected that kind of blitzing finish, just a 3-punch combo or something from Lombard, and that would be that. That didn't happen. And on top of that, with Burkman, in the second and third, when he was dropping his hands, I was expecting a flurry, and once in a while you saw that, but it wasn't. It struck me a little bit, kind of like Nick Diaz. But with Nick or Nate, for that matter, they're going to you're going to see those fists fly. And
it was like a Nate Diaz thing. I took it as like a desperation thing. Like, dude, it didn't seem cocky. It didn't seem arrogant. It didn't seem, spite driven. It just seemed kind of like, all right, I'm tired.
But he swung heavy when he did.
No, he did. He absolutely did. He held his own to the end. It was just his demeanor more so that gave just a maturity in the cage. I think the old Hector was, more sporadic and vicious, and he would go for, he'd smell the blood and he would go for the kill immediately. Mm-hmm. But this Hector seemed a lot more patient. I think there was a couple times where he easily Burkman had he flurried in and got him against the cage and really stuck to it.
He rocked him a couple of times against the cage, and he didn't go for that kill. That's what I'm saying.
He kind of just let it go, and I think he was maybe just playing it smart. He didn't want to go in there and catch one of those wild, hooks or uppercuts and, potentially get knocked out.
We've seen happen a lot before in the past.
How many times have we seen, completely lopsided fights where one guy is going and demolishing the other guy for 4 rounds, and at the end of the fourth or end of the third, whatever it may be, he catches one good right hook.
Mm-hmm. Here's your homework for the day for all you people that have Fight Pass. Abel Trujillo versus Jamie Varner.
Yeah.
Look that up. You'll see. This is exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I saw a link today on the internet, brutal attempts gone wrong, and it was like flying knee attempts, and like the guy's coming in the flying knee and just gets hit with the right and gets knocked out.
Reminds me of Arlovsky against Fedor.
That one from Affliction 3, I think. But they all this said, these strange fluke knockouts happen sometimes. But we don't see them as often as when somebody is rocked and against the cage, and somebody at the caliber of Hector Lombard with his striking, or with his judo and his ability to finish a guy in the clinch or on the ground. I'm surprised. I don't know why he didn't. That was the part that puzzled me. And far be it me to second guess a fighter, but
I think like I said, I'm going to stand by what I was saying. I think he was just playing it smart. I think he knew he had the win. He wasn't threatened in any manner, unless going in those close quarters. So I think he was just like, let me beat the guy up, go to the next round, and beat him up some more.
Well, if you finish the guy with a great knockout or some kind of great finish, you're more likely to win that $50,000 bonus.
Yeah, you got to think he was tired too, though. So maybe that was part of it too. But anyway,
you got to think now that pretty much it's announced Lawler versus Hendricks 3 is going to happen. You were saying that Rory McDonald opponent. But at the same time, though, Matt Brown needs an opponent for next month because Tarek Saffiedine is out.
Yeah.
I know he was saying put me in that card, but that's only like a month from now. Who knows if he'll be ready? But
in the post-fight press conference, when Dana White was asked who's next for Hector Lombard, he mentioned Matt Brown, Rory McDonald, or
Tyron's fighting Kelvin Gastelum. Them two are out, but Rory makes sense. Next one, maybe Matt Brown too.
Yeah.
Matt Brown needs an opponent.
I would like to see Rory McDonald and Hector Lombard. That'd be an interesting fight. Because Rory McDonald has like that stalking Terminator mentality.
Rory is going to pressure Hector. It'll be interesting to see how Hector reacts to Rory.
Well, used to being the pressurer, not the pressuree. So that should be interesting.
Yeah.
Next on the card, we had Louis Gaudinot. Is that right? Gaudinot. Versus Kyoji Horiguchi. He's ranked number 11. This is like, we were talking about it earlier when we were watching it. He's like kind of like a young prospect coming up. I don't know, I think he's almost ready for the top 15. I mean, he's ranked number 11. Almost ready for like title contention, but not quite there. Maybe a couple more. They asked him that. Yeah, they asked him that in the post-fight press conference, and he said not quite yet, but maybe soon.
I think he's on a 4-fight win streak in the UFC.
Yeah.
He comes in from Japan, and is that right? Or 4-fight win streak, I believe. This might actually have been his debut, but comes in as a champion in Japan. I'm blanking if it was with Shuto. I believe Shuto. It was their champion at 132 pounds. And he looked really good. Won, let's see, 30-27, 29-28, 30-27. He was stalking Gaudinot a lot around the cage. Had his number, with pretty much with the striking across the board. In the second round, he threw jumping knee. Gaudinot tried to jump guard with the head and arm choke, but didn't quite get it. But the rest of the match pretty much was Horiguchi.
Yeah, the difference in the striking ability between the two of them was so immense. I mean, Horiguchi is a guy that's so fluid on his feet, has such amazing movement. I mean, his pivoting, his boxing movement was amazing. He was fluid, like a fighter should be. Whereas Gaudinot kind of had this unorthodox he's a karate guy, a Tiger Schulman guy, so maybe that was what it was. But he was very flat-footed, very heavy on his feet, and every shot he threw was like a haymaker, like he was landing to kill. So it kind of left him front feet, which I think, was part of the reason why he was getting caught so much coming in. What do you think, George?
Yeah, I mean, he was grinding him. That's pretty much it. Never really... Gaudinot, he was on Tough, right?
Yeah, he was on the season of Tough with Michael Bisping versus
Jason Miller.
Which was that was at bantamweight. It was of the two different weight classes. Gaudinot and John Dodson, all those guys fought at 135.
Right.
But of course, a lot of them have dropped down to 25. I don't know. Gaudinot, I think, will kind of be one of those mid-level while. Unless he goes on a major skid. I don't know.
That's such a hard division. We talked about that earlier. You have you have the champ, and then you have everyone that the champ beat, and then you have all the other guys below them. So
there was an interesting statistic on UFC tonight that they showed the numbers in each weight class. And what surprised me, I wish I could remember the most populated one was lightweight, the 101 fighters.
Really?
Yeah, but it wasn't the second most. I was surprised, I'll say, that flyweight that we're talking about right now had, I believe, around, which was pretty comparable to middleweight, and I dare say it might have been light heavyweight.
Wow.
Which surprised me that there would be so many, but still it was, among the lower, middle to lower weight classes in terms of population, which means to me that we're a bit safer in a weight class that doesn't have as many guys because they don't have that many guys, or as many as a bigger one. So, Gaudinot, like I said, is I'd have to look at his record to see what his past 5 have been, for example.
Right. 2 Brecken lost in within 5 fights.
Yeah. Yeah, he's going to have to kind of reestablish himself pretty soon this year.
Next, we had Brad Tavares, number 15, versus Nate Marquardt. Really good fight. I liked this one. This one was a little bit more entertaining than the other Tavares. Great kicks by Tavares. Tavares won via unanimous decision.
Yep, across the board, 30-27.
Yeah.
The story, I think that, or the thing that comes out of this match, we all seem to really kind of take note at how big Brad in this match compared to Nate.
Both of them looked big, though. I mean, but Brad Tavares looked huge.
Brad's a guy that always surprised me. When I remember interviewing him at one point, just shortly after the season when he was on Ultimate Fighter, which I believe was Chuck versus Chuck versus.
Replaced.
Yeah.
And replaced by Rich. Yeah. That sounds right. Yeah. Because I remember Chuck was coaching his opponent Seth Baczynski, I believe, one of the matches in the house. But Brad didn't seem that big to me as like physically. But in this case, at 6'1" and 185. He looked really big in the cage against Nate. And Nate is known to be a big guy stepping in the cage.
All we kept saying is, CM Punk, are you sure that's the weight class you want to fight at? Are you sure? Because that looks like a big difference in size.
But he was in control. He was super strong. Who unfortunately also didn't really get a lot off, it seemed. Brad was having a lot of success with his jab. He was fast with his hands. Stuff to take down, at least in the second, he had the single leg. Clinched off the cage. He had off of his charge.
I'll be right back. I gotta go somewhere real quick.
All right, just keep going.
He's gonna go find some cool stories for us to talk about.
This break brought to you by.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so then we had Donald Cerrone versus Miles Jury. Cowboy's one of my favorites.
I love me some cowboy paws. But I love watching Donald Cerrone get in the cage. Absolutely. This is a guy that has been around early enough, I think, to he made his track record. He made his rep, as you will, and when they crossed over to the UFC, has a string of fight of the night and performance of the night, or knockout of the night, submission of the night, whatever you want to. When Donald Cerrone's on the card, obviously, as you guys have probably well know, and as we've talked about numerous times last year, because the guy, if you're gonna, chances are dollars to donuts, and I love donuts. You're gonna get a fantastic match. You're gonna get a fight of the night contender or performance of the night nominee. This was tough because Cerrone prides himself in that. He prides himself in that, and also a guy that's been coming up through the ranks pretty fast and had a lot of limelight on him or expectations of him. And we didn't quite see that this time. This was not the competitive back and forth match that a lot of people expected it to be. Cerrone almost finished Jury in the first round with a rear naked choke and a body triangle that he held on, I think, for something like 3 minutes. Even prior to that, almost in the beginning, he got Jury stuck in a really nasty omoplata that was locked on, seemingly to me pretty tight and secure. And then, he took that round. Second round was stand up. I didn't think it was much less action filled, to be sure, than the first round, or at least less progressive. But Jury looked all right. They were trading back and forth. I even, the first viewing I gave. Is that right? I gave Jury the second round, 10-9. And on second viewing, it was I could still kind of stick with that. And that said, and Cerrone took the third round, especially with a sweet finish in the last 10, 15 seconds or so.
Yeah, I mean, I gave all 3 rounds to Donald Cerrone. Donald Cerrone, like I said before, is the kind of guy that breaks you in the cage, and I think he did just that to Miles Jury. I felt like Miles Jury was in there like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? Not to take anything away from him. He's proved himself time and time again. Like you said, he's faced some amazing competitors just recently, but it's just a different caliber. And I think, like you said, Donald Cerrone is amazing at marketing himself. He's the cowboy that everyone loves to love. He sits there with the Budweiser and is chewing tobacco after every fight. I mean, who doesn't love the guy? But he's also known for putting on an exciting performance. And we saw there at the end of the third round that he was pissed that Miles was exciting
about
fight.
Those kicks, kicks.
Yeah, let's get to that, George.
What was it about it? Because, you can literally, a lot of times when somebody's on the back, you don't want to get in the guard. Sometimes you throw like a little kick through the thigh, kind of see what to do.
Kick.
Not Cerrone. he literally winded up and kicked as hard as he could.
This is the last
on Malinger, shin to shin or to the thigh. Like
last 10 seconds of the third round.
Or with like 5 that looked brutal kicks.
Donald Cerrone was so pissed off that this fight was shit that he wound up and kicked Miles Jury as hard as he could while Miles is in, guard position. And, they were, like you said, they were hitting shin. Worst pain in the world. Well, until you have like iron shins like Donald Cerrone. But at my level, it's very painful. And, he was kicking him everywhere and every which way. And it looked very, very painful.
And it was retaliation for Miles Jury not stepping up to the plate, supposedly.
In the post-fight press conference, he goes, those are FU kicks. So they were
he
definitely.
He didn't say "fu." He actually said what the F and the U stands for.
Which, frankly, we probably could too. But
they're fuck you kicks.
I guess we are.
Now we have to have the explicit sign on the iTunes.
I just got the look.
Now when people click on it, it's gonna say, "Are you okay to watch this? Are you over 18?"
No. It's 3 times. Do you want me to make it explicit? I can do it right now.
Might as well show my tits then if we're gonna go there. But yeah, like I said, I love Donald Cerrone. He was my fighter of the year.
Yes,
and he already wants to fight again. He's like, you know what? February 14th, they're in Colorado, my hometown. Please, Dana, let me fight there. And he's like, dude, that's why you're my boy.
Yes.
He said that like multiple. That's why you're my boy.
That.
So I'm kind of curious. But at the same time, who does he fight? The only thing that makes sense is Khabib Nurmagomedov. Whatever, I always get it wrong. But is he still hurt? And if he is still hurt, then who else makes sense? I mean, everyone else is taken. I mean, maybe Gilbert Melendez?
Ooh, daddy. Ooh, I like that.
That would be an interesting choice now, wouldn't it?
Oh, God. That's a good one.
They already announced Pettis and Dos Anjos for Dallas on, I think, March 14th. Of course, Gilbert just came off a fight. I'm sure he's going to want to fight again. I mean, that's going to be an excellent test, especially they keep talking to Cerrone. Is he ready for a title shot?
Cerrone is not ready for a title. I don't know how he's not ready.
I would be very interested. You don't see how he's not ready?
Yes.
I agree. Like, we've seen him run through these guys. I think you said a 4-fight win streak? 5
6.
6? Oh, my God.
Yeah.
This guy hasn't lost recently.
Maybe 6, maybe
he's
more.
on a run. Oh, my God. His kicks are looking more beautiful than ever. And put him against a good
His ground game is very underrated for the simple fact that I don't think he's ranked as far as the belt wise.
Yeah, that's what they were saying in the press conference. Yeah. They were like, I don't know what belt he is, but he's a good belt. Like, he's amazing on the ground.
I don't think he has one. I think he's never really truly
he's an old
given
school
a rank.
guy. Yeah.
But like I said, he should be somebody who should be considered as a high class jiu-jitsu guy because he is. I mean, that body lock, Miles Jury was not going anywhere after that body lock.
Well, Miles Jury initiated the takedown, and Donald Cerrone took advantage of it completely.
I mean, he's one of those guys where if done correctly, you're never going to get out of body lock. We've seen it happen with other people before, but you're not going to get out of Cerrone's body lock.
Legs are so strong. I mean, that's what he's known for. His legs are so strong.
I had a gig. I'm trying to remember the last time this was. This would have been like 2009 or 2010, I believe. Yeah, maybe we'll even say 11, but probably like 10. Another gig I was doing on the internet, MMA stuff, and I remember looking up Cerrone at that point.
Yeah,
and guys, that was like 5 or 6 years ago. I don't even know what the number is at now, but I know that he's won at least one, if not several more by submission. Yeah, the guy's ground game is very underrated for him being known as a kickboxer.
Right.
The guy is just an overall fighter. And
that's exactly what he is.
You know,
he's a tough
extreme lifestyle badass. So how it is that he didn't have the WEC championship around his waist, I think must have been just timing. And that one split decision with was it Varner, Jamie Varner, I believe. But you know, if there's a guy that's kind of your reserve go-to guy for a title match, it's Donald Cerrone.
Oh, definitely.
That said, he wants to stay busy. Gil Melendez versus Donald Cerrone is a very imaginative match. I like that because if it goes to the ground with Gil's wrestling, Cerrone has to agree to pair that up with. You know, and striking wise, it's going to be a fun brawl.
Donald Cerrone looks like one of those guys that has like, have you ever heard the term like construction worker strength? Like that real man strength, not like
I call it retarded farm horse strength, but yes,
same
I know what
thing.
you're talking about.
He looks like that guy that's just so strong that like you can't manage him. Like I picture Gilbert Melendez trying to take him down, maybe succeeding. attempting the grind on the ground, and then Donald Cerrone just like being like hell no, and like pulling off a triangle or something.
Yeah, Gil would have to be very careful about those legs wrapping around him as well.
Definitely. I think it's a dangerous spot for him to go. So I think that'd be a really good fight.
Yeah. We will see more from Miles Jury, to be sure. I think this was a derailment. Sometimes, as we've talked about, losses can be really good for somebody.
I think this was the perfect loss for Miles Jury because I think he's an amazing fighter, but I just think that he needs a couple more. I think he needs to just work on what it is that's in this next caliber of fighter. What are the Donald Cerrone's doing? What are the Gilbert Melendez's doing?
And especially those kicks. That's adding salt to the wound. It's insult to injury, and I would think that would be whether he feels like he's justified in it or not.
Right.
It's a motivator to come back and have a better performance, have the performance that you're known for,
Absolutely.
rather than that one.
Yeah, I mean he's definitely done better, so I think we'll see a better Miles Jury next time.
Yeah.
But let's go to the main event of the evening.
That was the co-main already?
Right?
The evening.
Jeez Louise.
Go ahead, Bruce Buffer.
Daniel Cormier versus the champion.
That's so Michael Buffer. That's not Bruce Buffer.
Yeah, it's
there
very
was nothing in that,
monotone.
guys. Huh? Come on.
Did you want me to do the whole thing?
The main event.
Oh, man. Well, you got to jump up. Oh, the evening. It's time. Fighting out of the blue corner. With the record of whatever.
No.
205.
Wayne.
Daniel D.C. Cormier.
And now, fighting
out of the red corner, the champion, Jon Bones Jones.
You didn't say their weight. Weighing in at
whatever.
205 pounds.
This is not Bruce we're talking
I'm sorry.
about. This is George Buffer. That.
That was very good.
I know it's good. I practice in the shower every single day.
Do you do the
That was whack,
360-degree turn or like the
I
180?
I did once until I fell on my booty. And that's why I have this little. No, I'm just kidding.
So yeah, Jon Jones took on Daniel Cormier. The cool thing about this fight, not only that it was Jones's 8th title defense, 9th title fight in total, and they're both undefeated. Were undefeated.
Well, no, not Jones. Technically, he has that loss, DQ loss to Matt
Technically,
Hamill.
he's not undefeated, but
Which is kind of a
But
fatal
technically,
thing.
he is undefeated.
Pretty much, yeah.
He got
Technically,
he's not undefeated.
but really he is.
But really he is.
He did dominate that match. Yeah.
He got DQ'd for
just
legal
a little
elbows.
just a little bit of the build-up. I don't remember a fight with so much. I don't want to say hatred because that's too strong of a verb. But yes, animosity would be a good word.
I think hatred is in it's the right neighborhood as well. Frankly,
Yeah, it's going back. I mean, again, and it's funny. We're gonna tie it all together, and it all started with how they met the first time. We've all heard the story. We're not about who's right or wrong, but Jon Jones goes up to Daniel Cormier and says, "Hey, I heard you're Cain Velasquez's wrestling coach. I heard you're DC." Of course, takes that completely the wrong way. He's like, "Who do you think you are?" I'm
probably didn't help that Jones didn't know DC. I would think that and being an Olympian, DC would be expecting a little bit more recognition from somebody in the wrestling community.
Yeah, this was back in 2010 though. This is October 2010 and that was in Anaheim in October 2010. So this was years ago. This was even before Jon Jones was champion.
Right.
Because I think he won it in February 2011. So then fast forward, Daniel Cormier's doing his thing in Strikeforce. Jon Jones coming up. Finally, once Daniel Cormier developed in light heavyweight, he's calling out Jon Jones. And of course, the fight gets announced. And then, of course, the whole press conference happened. I think after that, it kind of took everything into a whole new level. As
the
far
UFC
as
press conference in Vegas. It was a press
Vegas.
Conference that was the pull apart.
Because it was supposed to be initially the September 27th. It was supposed to be on that show initially.
And it got postponed.
Then Jon Jones got hurt.
Jon Jones got hurt.
Got postponed to January 3rd.
And here we are.
Yeah. It finally happened. But I say that because now we're going to get into the fight. And Jon Jones, the whole thing started off with, "Hey, I bet I can take you down." And he did. And he did.
Bacon there.
That was well done.
That simple.
That's
and
a
it wasn't
winner.
even. And yes, he took him down in the later rounds, but no, he took him down in the first round as well.
Right away.
They immediately showed a graphic right after he got taken down. This is the first time Daniel Cormier ever got taken down in MMA.
Every time I try to get statistics on MMA or little gauging points, the Olympic wrestler always beats the junior college wrestler. I lose, guys. Every time I lose. I try to get these little marking points in my mind, this makes a better MMA fighter than this one, and it's always contradicting.
And that ties it together with a bow, the nail on the head. Anything can happen in this. Or no.
It kind of goes back to the build-up where I think Ben Askren was on the same team as Cormier. I think he was on the Olympic squad the same year that Cormier was.
Right, yeah, he was.
Then you had Jon Jones, them going back and forth. Like, I think he put up a picture of Ben Askren losing, but then Ben Askren put up a picture of Jon Jones as like JV or something like that,
Yeah. I mean, long story short, I really think 90% of Jon Jones' victory, I mean, he's the most athletic, talented. You could say it all about him, but so much of his game is mental. I think the guy has one of the best attitudes, one of the best determinations we've seen in the sport. And Daniel Cormier, crying in the post-fight press conference, admitted that. Said that he's never shared a cage. Now, Daniel Cormier shared a cage with lions and tigers and bears. He has never shared a cage with a guy with the same, charisma and determination as Jon Jones. That's what he said as he was crying in the post-fight press conference. I mean, you just have to look at the type of guy that Jon Jones is and why he wins the way he does. Because, I mean, on paper, you would say the Olympian's going to take down.
I had Daniel Cormier winning.
So did I.
I did not.
I didn't think that it was going to be, a one-sided fight. I thought it was going to be very competitive, but I thought that Daniel Cormier was going to grind the shit out of Jon Jones. And I thought Jones was kind of, going to come up with something clever to get out of his cool elbows and stuff like that and score some points. I thought it was going to be close.
See, I picked Cormier because I think he was 15-0 before last night, and I don't think he even lost a round. I mean,
that's what they said.
And here's
Never
a guy who beat the great of the greatest. I'm going to say Roy Nelson. Good way to start off. No offense to Roy Nelson. But Josh Barnett, Frank Mir, Dan Henderson, Bigfoot Silva. I mean, here's a who's who of not just light heavyweight, but also guys that fought heavyweight.
Right.
So the guy that he's beaten is a great resume to have on guys you beat. Jon Jones as well. But the thing about Jon Jones was I don't want to say flaws, but I saw weakness at some point, whether it's against Gustafsson or whoever, mostly against Alexander Gustafsson, though that's the thing. I saw Jon Jones in a weakened state. Right. I had never seen that in Cormier.
Right.
That's the only reason why I picked Cormier, but going back to what Brian Stan said when predicting his, for the main event, he said, I'm not going to count. I'm going to pick Jon Jones because I have no reason not to. So from here on in, from ever and ever, and every single Jon Jones fight until he loses, I will always pick Jon Jones to win.
Jon Jones to me is like the stud on the basketball team, like the youngest person on the basketball team that just comes in and kills like the varsity players. And the varsity players like, dude, I've been around forever. Like, what are you doing?
To quote that, I mean, he reminds me a lot of the Michael Jordan of his sport. He's the guy who just makes it look very easy at times. Yes, he doesn't win every single game, but at the end of the day, he's going to be known as one of the greatest of all time. Maybe Jordan is the greatest. Jon Jones, although you can call him the best ever, he's going to say, I'm not. I got a lot yet to prove. Which kind of scary because for him to say that he can still get a lot better, and we'll get into that afterwards.
Let's just say this: Jon Jones, he's now moved to New Mexico, where his gym has been for the past several years, with Greg Jackson. Before this fight, he's just now starting a regime where he trains consistently throughout the entire year. Prior to that, he had only trained for like his camps. When he had a fight coming up, okay, I'll go down to New Mexico and train. He didn't train in his off season. He had an off season where he just chilled and was a father and a husband. So that's really scary. I mean, champion that has 8 title defenses that doesn't even train year round.
I'd argue the same thing at this point with this performance against DC. There's a really strong argument, and in fact, even it's hard to kind of counterpoint the argument that Jon Jones ever seen in the sport.
Yeah.
I had a feeling that he was going to figure out how to solve Daniel Cormier's puzzle, and he did. He outstruck him. He used his balance and height in a very unique way in the clinch. The clinch. It was almost like Jones he would clinch and kind of take a farther back stance, almost to I don't know, to establish his base that much farther out to drive into Cormier. And of course the takedowns in the front into Daniel's head, and from there he was able to really to dominate, I guess you'll say. But here's a couple other points. DC in this match, DC. I feel like that even though the scores were pretty lopsided, 49-46, and I scored it all 5 rounds for Jones. Frankly, I can see how 2 or 3 would be close. I feel like DC didn't lose this fight as much as Jon Jones just won this fight more. It was a great competitive match. Unfortunately, maybe fortunately, the round was pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I mean, there was no, like you said, there was no loser. Jon Jones won by a margin, but it's not like he beat the crap out of Daniel Cormier. It's not like
he grinded him out pretty much.
Yeah, that's exactly what he did. He grinded him out through all 5 rounds.
Cormier had a lot of success too with the uppercut, dirty boxing from the clinch.
Right.
Jon Jones, to DC's credit, Jon Jones took a lot of shots to the head
and was
to the body.
Completely unfazed.
Yeah, he wasn't phased, which is a scary thought. And like you said, if we've been seeing Jon Jones half-assing it in terms of his evolution as a fighter and a martial artist, and now he's decided to go serious,
right?
That's pretty severe. Now, that said, in MMA, again, anything can happen. There will be somebody that comes along and beats Jon Jones. I don't know who it is, and I don't know that it's going to happen anytime soon.
I don't think
and
so.
I don't even know that it's necessarily going to happen at another weight class. It could happen at 205 at some point.
Right. Well, here's the thing.
Everybody does lose unless you retire early. You know?
No, they don't, Jay.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
Fedor lost.
I mean, Jon Jones, that guy is. I mean,
everybody loses.
A lot
Anderson
of people
Silva loses.
Yeah, about the fight though. A lot of people are analyzing. If he keeps it, if he uses his length, DC is going to win if he keeps it close. But a lot of times it was like, I think you were saying, like, why is Jon Jones in the clinch? Well, because he's winning. I mean,
it was the opposite.
So
Yeah,
a lot of people were saying that's like Jon Jones beat DC in his own game, and I think that's what is more impressive.
Yeah.
The fact that he beat in ways that they were saying that Daniel Cormier was going to beat Jon Jones.
Right.
And that's what I think makes Jon Jones, that's your biggest argument for why Jon Jones could be the GOAT.
Yeah. I mean, they were talking in the post-fight press conference. Dana White was asked, is Jon Jones the best in the world, or could he be? You know, basically comparing him to, like, Anderson. Dana White said, I'm scared to say it because Jon Jones is so young, but he definitely could be. And the only reason I think Anderson Silva really started, lost is because of his mental game. I think he got to a point in his career where he was so untouchable, so unreachable, that it was like he lacked the motivation. And that was a question they asked Jon Jones in the post-fight press conference, or they asked Dana White, what's his motivation now? He's beat everybody. Why? What is there to get excited about?
Yeah.
And Jon Jones so simply said, oh my God, this is just the beginning. What are you guys talking about? Like, motivation, I bleed. I have so much yet to prove, so much yet to accomplish. I was only training part-time. Now I'm going to train full-time. So Jon Jones does not lack in the mental department as far as determination and will goes. So I think that's going to get him further than, like, an Anderson Silva.
Yeah. He's been through a lot in a short amount of time, I'm thinking about, when he arrived on the scene and he blew through a lot of guys and really opened people's eyes widely. And impressed a lot of people. He dealt with a lot of personal stuff behind the scenes, away from the cage. With a car crash and a DUI where he lost his, I think he lost his license for about a year or so. Publicly, he had mud on his face on that one. He's been dealing with fans not liking him. When he arrived on the scene, he was a lot of people's darling because he was so good. So he's had to grow and mature and deal with all this stuff under the public microscope.
He's like a child star.
Yeah.
You have to grow in front of the...
And now he's gotten past that stuff mentally, or so it seems, and as he claims, he speaks with a different confidence where he's accepting his arrogance or his role with the public, or their impression of him. And he's kind of DGAF about it. And now he's just going to focus on improving. That really is going to be the thing that turns him into something. I think we can argue that he's easily, possibly one of the all-time greats. I'd argue probably the greatest right now in the sport. As a fighter, is he perfect? I think that's the next challenge. That's what I think he wants to go for.
Yeah.
And I know perfect is a very strong word to use for anything in life, but the guy's damn good.
Say the word like improving, or that Jon Jones says the word improving, because I'm really curious. And I'm dishing it out there, iTunes, YouTube, whatever. I want to hear other people's argument for him not being, today, the best pound-for-pound fighter. But I even want to hear people saying, like, why he's not the greatest of all time. I'm not going as far as saying it or not saying it, but I just want to hear why. Why would you not say he's the greatest of all time?
That's a good question.
Because, like I said, and it's funny, Dana White always back and forth. A week ago, he was like, "Oh, Pettis is the best pound-for-pound fighter." DJ, Ronda Rousey, but I just don't see how anybody can say that Jon Jones isn't the best pound-for-pound fighter today.
He's a guy that we've seen loopholes in his game, but very, very little, very minimal, and he's just proven, like you said, your favorite kind of fighter is the guy that does the undoable. He's an untouchable guy. He does everything that we think isn't doable until we see Jon Jones do it. Yeah. So I think that alone makes this one of the best. And his arsenal. I mean, he has one of the most diverse toolkits I've ever seen in MMA. And I think that that's going to get him far too. But overall, like I said, his mental game is...
I like that he talks like a fighter too. A lot of guys will say, I want to give thanks to my game. He's like saying the words warrior and spirit. Like he talks like a fighter.
He does talk like a fighter.
Definitely, challenge my warrior spirit, my mental game, this. I mean...
Right.
Well, he takes his role very seriously.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's like, I think a lot of it was what I was saying earlier, is a lot of it's mental. Like his coaching, his mentality. That's a lot of things that you can't really teach.
Right.
You either have it or you don't.
And he said something that was so interesting to me as a fighter. I finally come to terms with my career. And
that's what I'm talking about.
A lot of people may not get what that means, but, being a fighter... I don't care who you are, every fighter has their fears and their stipulations and, their struggles and their doubts. Because it's a sport where you face humility at every turn. It's not basketball where you can be, undefeated forever. You still get punched even when you win. You know what I mean? You still fight the struggle. It's a fight. It's not a win or a loss. It's a fight. You're fighting. And Jon Jones saying that he finally came to terms with his career, meaning that, like, he finally accepted, okay, my job's hard, but I know I can get it. And he said specifically, I know I have the cardio to get through it. I know I have the mindset to take any kind of punch, any kind of takedown, and bounce back up. And that's an interesting spot for someone to get to in their fight career. And I think that puts him on a different level mentally than so many fighters out there.
I mean, comparing, to the other people, the other thinks is the greatest of all time is Anderson Silva. One of my, I never, even at that time, I always thought GSP was better, just for the simple fact that I saw flaws in Silva's game, and that was wrestling.
Right.
You put him up against a great wrestler like Dan Henderson or
even Chael Sonnen, yeah.
They took him down like with ease. So like I said, I saw flaws, even with Jim Hero too. Yes, he's gotten punched, but I yet to see a way you can beat him. I know it kind of said something earlier, but it just shows, you can't really beat him. Even when you throw everything at him, yeah, he might have a busted lip. Maybe he might, take a picture with a swollen face, but he still won.
And you heard Daniel Cormier in the post-fight press conference amazed by Jon Jones's size in the cage. He's like, he was so much bigger than I thought he would be.
And not just height-wise or weight-wise, but just his presence.
Yeah.
I
think that's part of the reason why no one can rock him. I mean, of course he has a really good jaw and a really good chin, but at the same, he's so big, and I just don't think these guys are doing it. He moved to heavyweight, maybe have more of a challenge.
He did mention if given the opportunity, he'd fight Kane in a heartbeat, but he's still got. He's like, I still got a lot to prove at 205. I'm like, what do you got to do in 205?
Yeah, what is there left to prove? Go fight Kane.
I mean, the cool thing about being a champion like he is as opposed to other divisions, he's fought everybody just one time and he's beat them. It's not like the bantamweight where you saw
rematch.
Barao. I mean, he's probably going to fight Dillashaw again. Faber and Cruz we saw over a few times. And the good thing about it is, and no disrespect to Rousey and DJ, but a lot of the people that they fight, it's kind of like there's really no one. Like there's no. Yeah. You got your number one, your champion, and then arguable number two. And it's like, oh, let's put this one in. Let's put.
Yeah.
I don't even know who DJ's fighting next. Just for the sake of. You know,
But
they got to fight someone, as opposed to Jon Jones. He's fighting the top of the top guy who I want to win, because I do want to see Jones Gustafsson too, because that first fight was amazing. But I kind of want to see him face someone new, you know, like
So do
Rumble
I.
Johnson, you know, and Rumble Johnson is. That guy is tough.
Yeah.
So.
I think either way, we're going to end up seeing both those matches.
Yeah.
Maybe Jones is going to fight one, maybe two more times this year, and if that's the case, we're probably talking about middle of the year, maybe springtime, and then at the end of the year, most likely. Especially in this sport, in a few months, the whole landscape can change. Obviously, the winner of Gustafsson Jones, and then who knows how the lay of the land will look at that point.
I think Cormier should fight the loser of Gustafsson Rumble Johnson.
That does make sense,
Yeah.
But then what do you do? I think maybe even you find somebody else in the top 10, because if he beats the loser
It
of
puts him in
Gustafsson
contention
Jones,
again.
you're back in that bottom rack.
And I would like to see a rematch eventually, but not yet. Not quite yet. I don't want it to be one of those things where it's like the guy doesn't get to improve before he gets the rematch.
I like that Jones was like, he's like, bring Cormier. I wouldn't mind beating him up again, which is different because he's usually opposed to fighting somebody more than one time. So
But I don't think there's an argument for a rematch anytime soon.
No.
I mean, that's what he said. Is if he wants, he can start winning again, build himself up, and I'll beat him up again.
Yeah. All right, guys, we are not going to be here this coming week because there's no MMA for us to talk about. But we'll be back with McGregor versus Seaver versus Eddie Alvarez. Some super exciting fights. I'm
probably
super excited
have about 5 weeks off this entire year, guys.
Yeah.
And one of our breaks just happens to be this coming week.
Wait, there's a fight in 2 weeks? Who do you think's going to win? Which brings us to our AfterBuzz prediction.
Oh, I like that.
Your AfterBuzz TV prediction.
So before we get into the main event, there is Eddie Alvarez versus Benson Henderson in a lightweight, maybe a title contender match, even though they both just came off losses. But who do you see winning, Benson or Eddie Alvarez?
Alvarez.
Benson they both came off losses. So I mean,
I want to go. I feel like I have to study their matches more, but if it gets closed up in the clinch for some reason, I see Eddie. I can see Eddie pulling off an upset here.
I agree. I think Eddie Alvarez is going to win.
Eddie Alvarez, hands down.
Cool. And then we have the main event: Conor McGregor versus Dennis Seaver.
McGregor.
McGregor.
I'm on the bandwagon.
Okay, it's McGregor. I'm going to go for McGregor for the simple fact that
He's
guy
gonna
is
win.
something that I've never seen. He's got. Don't want to compare him to Jon Jones immediately, but I mean, he's got something. He's got that it factor.
He does.
That the
At
top
least,
guys.
I don't know if he has the skill level yet. We'll see in coming fights, but he definitely has the star power.
And if he wins, 80 England.
Yeah.
Gonna blow the roof. Or
We'll
whatever's
see.
left.
What do you think,
If there's
Jay?
a, if there's a
I
roof.
do think that McGregor probably will come out on top. Seaver, I think, probably was more comfortable at 55.
Right.
He certainly had a better success at 55.
Yeah.
And I don't know that. And it is.
What's it, Boston?
They're doing it.
In Boston.
They're doing it specifically for Conor McGregor to look good and get a win that they feel like he should be able to get because.
Right.
What was it? What do you get? Seaver versus Jose Aldo. You're going back to Calgary with
It
that
feels
one.
like they didn't really need to
No,
have...
just to my Canadian, my
It feels
Canucks
like
out there,
they
but
didn't really need to have this fight for McGregor to get the title shot.
Yeah.
It feels
Right.
like he was already there, but it's like something to do. Let's put him in Boston.
He
where
was
it's
there in
Irish
terms of-
country, anyways. You know?
he was there in terms of hype. He wasn't there in terms of
Yeah.
the win streak. You know, he needs this fifth win, I think.
Dennis Seaver's a tough guy. Let's see what Conor McGregor does to someone like that.
Or we
He's
can see
already
the-
faced some tough guys.
Or we can see a huge upset.
Or we could see a huge upset. But either way, guys, we will be back the following week with some awesome MMA news. What do you guys have? Some shout-outs, some tweets? Where do you want
The social media hasn't changed. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, JTan716. Mom, there's a reason I created your own profile, so please stop trying to add Downton Abbey to my queue. That's my territory. Thank you.
You can follow me on Instagram and at Twitter at Hermoza. That's GHERMOZA. That's it. Just follow me.
Yeah.
I'll put pictures up.
You guys can find me at Daria B28. Also on my Facebook page, Daria the Jersey Devil Berenato.
Coming soon.
I do have a fight coming up. It's February 7th up in Victorville, California, at the Dodge Ram.
At the Victorville Stadium.
No, it's at the Dodge Ram Arena, and you can go on my Facebook, and I'll be selling tickets. So hit me up, message me, text me, call me if you want some tickets. Thanks, guys. See you later.
Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later!
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.